Movies and storytelling in general are my passion. I really adore studying film and writing screenplays, but I do have a side of me that seeks escapism in some video games. As mentioned in previous videos, my favorite ones are the Resident Evil and Final Fantasy franchises, for their genre, gameplay style and stories. So in this video I decided to share a list of games that I played in 2022. Old games, new ones, it doesn't matter. So in first place I wanna talk about Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. And I'm still going through it at the moment. This was the game back in the day that actually introduced me to Final Fantasy VII Classic. Yes, I got spoiled regarding that one twist in the story. Therefore exposed me to other titles. Some of my favorites after Final Fantasy VII being Final Fantasy IX, 6 and Final Fantasy X. But this game, Crisis Core Reunion, is actually a proper remaster of the game initially released on the PlayStation Portable. The combat feels tonally different and fun this time around, which captivates me to complete all the side missions, discover enemy weaknesses, and since the core of a video game is actually feeling fun and satisfactory to play, it contributes to immersion, which made me feel the story a lot more. Those who played the original know that the essence of Final Fantasy VII is there, and the story is incredible. However, the dialogue in Crisis Core is atrocious, but this is from an era when players were used to the absence of voice actors. Reading the dialogue in Final Fantasy games added space for creativity.
Sierra, hurry up, I'm gonna die. Look at me, I'm above the water.
Controller, ignition in 30 seconds. Beginning countdown. Sid, forget about her. We won't make it any time.
What am I supposed to do?
At least for me, going through Final Fantasy VII Classic, it made me imagine how these characters would sound like. And then what actually existed was complemented by what I picture in my mind. I hope I'm making sense here. Crisis Core Reunion didn't change much of its dialogue, so it's still difficult to process when it comes to writing, but I found myself caring way more because I was invested due to the gameplay and visual enhancement. I'm also playing it on my Steam Deck, which brings a lot of memories and gives room to some nostalgia, because I used to play it on my PlayStation Portable. So yeah. In number 2, Final Fantasy VII Classic and the remake. As anticipation for Crisis Core Reunion, I went back and revisited Final Fantasy VII Classic and the remake. The remake caused some divisive opinions, especially because they went with a 3-part series, but on a technical level and story-wise, I love what they did with its first part. So I'm actually confident they'll do part 2 and part 3 with love and care, especially this being their golden egg in the series. The classic to me is like a safe place that I never want to leave at all. The world, the lore, the characters, the different enemies and mechanics, the turn-based combat that I love, the mesmerizing music with each character, the cities and the open world itself that have their own music themes. That's why I have confidence in their choices in the remake. And now it seems they're rewriting some story beats in future parts. However, based on part 1, feels to me they're honoring the source material instead of being pretentious. In number 3, Elden Ring. I love this game. The architecture, the zones that resemble a lot of the tone of its major bosses, the ambiguous approach to visual storytelling and its lore, having this dystopian feel mixed with a medieval era within its fractioned world, full of odd characters that provide you with enough info that captivates you to discover more, the different gameplay mechanics and playstyles, and how rewarding the game is for pushing through its challenges. This game is a masterpiece, and also made me go back to Dark Souls 3 and defeat a certain individual that I used to despise. Now, Souls games provoked a discussion online that it's either productive or for 70% of the time will be toxic as hell. And it's very odd to me that there are some people that act like these games are the enemy, or others will base their opinion on a YouTuber or play whatever someone recommends. And then, when they find difficulty in a game like Elden Ring, they'll blame the game by saying it should have an easy mode, also saying that the fanbase is full of weirdos and people without life, but once the fans strike back, it's an issue. Yeah, Souls fans have the fame of being toxic, when perspective here matters. Most of them are just defensive towards toxicity. I find it weird that folks use the argument that they have a life and that people who spend too much time in this have no friends. I don't see the difference between spending time in a challenging video game or doing whatever on your free time if you're having fun. These people often feel burned out from it if they can't beat a boss. However, that's not the issue. The issue is assuming others don't have fun like them. I also find ridiculous when people don't develop a proper taste and decide to attack others based on theirs. But I guess throughout the years that will never change. Jesus, this turned into a rant. Oof. In number 4, Dying Light 1. For those who know me, having Resident Evil as my favorite franchise and The Walking Dead as my favorite comic book and TV series, I do love the zombie genre and I hate how wrongly they execute the concept nowadays. They use fast zombies in a way that really doesn't implement fear, and they act like slow zombies aren't scary at all. Let me give you an example. In The Night of Living Dead, there is this scene where characters are talking and for a long time you see an individual in the back slowly walking. And they're not acknowledging that fact until a certain moment, but it stays there pointing out that the danger is there. Or take Resident Evil 2 Remake, having the zombies coming at you slowly, while you know that they're almost immune to bullets. I feel that slow zombies are very underrated. I miss having a video game or a movie with tight spaces and corridors where the character has to solve something while a horde is slowly approaching. If you're going to use fast zombies, do it like the movie Wreck did, an apartment building with tight corridors and staircases, where you never feel safe. I might do a video about my ideal zombie genre approaches, but anyway, with this conversation I deviated a bit from talking about Dying Light 1, so yeah. Dying Light 1 provided the tone that I was delighted by, and implemented parkour which added fun while still preserving its darker atmosphere. The urban vibe once you arrive at the second city reminded me of movies like Rambok Barely Undead and also Wreck, acknowledging the sadness behind these walking corpses that once were human, and having them slow but also some recently infected people running towards you, which was such an incredible game design choice. Regarding the goofy weapon customization, man, I love it. And for those complaining that the grappling hook is way too OP and it deviates from the parkour aspect, I mean, you remind me of players in Counter-Strike complaining about the auto sniper. Just give me a break. In number 5, Project Zomboid. This one provides a lot of scary moments thinking of the slow zombie concept in depth. One zombie alone might be a piece of cake, but hundreds of them not so easy. In fact, there are situations where one is quite terrifying, especially with the limitations that the game itself gives you. I had lots of fun with it. I even downloaded the Walking Dead map from the Steam Workshop. It was very interesting. In number 6, Resident Evil Classics and Resident Evil 8. I cannot leave Resident Evil behind, which along with Final Fantasy games are my comfort games when I want to play something but I don't know what. I replayed the classics 2 and 3, mostly because 3 is my favorite in the series, the PS1 game by the way. The urban factor here plays a huge part, the sounds you hear in the distance, Nemesis following you in some parts, which RE3 Remake did a terrible job at it. I'm going to be honest, if there is a remake that I truly hate, is that one. They did it so well with Resident Evil 2, such a terrific job at bringing back RE2 classic aspects while innovating in a lot of other things. RE3 Remake just went screw it all mode. I've done 100% of the achievements in 30 hours, so you might have a guess how this plays out. To my knowledge, much it was developed by a different team, and I believe they tried to make it much more digestible for mainstream players, and the result is something so linear without any sense of complexity that damaged the personality of its predecessor and the classics that it's based on. Then I played Code Veronica and therefore also revisited Resident Evil 8 due to its DLC and third-person mode, which by the way should have been included in the initial release, but anyway, just saying. Resident Evil Code Veronica has a really weird pacing. I see a lot of people demanding a remake and I get really confused, because back in the day I remember struggling to invest myself while playing it. It's not like the puzzles or backtracking are challenging, it just takes way more time to immerse in its mechanics. Remember, this is only my experience, and if you do have a different view, I want you to tell me. Opinions matter, and I won't diminish yours. Resident Evil 8 reminded me of Resident Evil 4 in a lot of elements, although I couldn't handle how segmented its initial hours are. A good example is the Three Sisters boss battles, which felt so rushed. It makes me think they only wanted to include them to attract audiences and that's it. Dimitrescu was so underutilized. Also, when it comes to exploration, their castle is incredible, and each section also the puzzles that lacked complexity but were there in the way. But the problem is that narratively these characters weren't there at all. The Beneviento house, for instance, I love how they turned it into a Silent Hill scenario, but in the end I wish they had a boss battle in that house, because the setting itself felt just like an horror attraction, which sounds cool but unfortunately has less interaction than I expected. I still really like the game despite the flaws that I mentioned. It encapsulates a lot of previous RE elements. However, it's far from being my favorite. Finally, in number 7, I played God of War from 2018. I haven't played Ragnarok yet, so I don't know if it will top my choices. But personally, my favorite God of War game is still Ghost of Sparta. Not in terms of technicality, it's a personal score. Having brothers, this one hit me in a way that I didn't expect, and its ending just gave me a really hard time. Walking those stairs with Deimos in Kratos' hands was such a powerful and gut-punching moment. But the game in general is so much fun to play, in comparison with Chains of Olympus, which was also a PSP game that also has great lore moments but didn't really hit me that much. God of War from 2018 though was a shift from what we knew and did bring a lot of different things that resonated with people. I like a good redemption arc, and I feel Kratos definitely needed one. His character in the past was so broken, and here it feels balance is coming to the surface. In terms of gameplay, combat also feels more calculated instead of a general slasher. However, for some reason I feel that the old games are more fun. One of the things that in the reboot I feel is that the camera can be a complete mess, and I did die to bosses more often because I was trying to control my field of view. Regardless, this is a fantastic game in general, with lots to explore, great achievements and powerful character moments. That's it for today, folks. What are your favorite video games? Let me know. Also, if you found my channel and you like what I do here, consider subscribing, and we'll see each other in the next video. See ya.